All right, everybody, what's going on? Good late morning. Going to be streaming with the Hawk's Nest in about an hour from the upload of this video. So get ready for that. We're going to talk about the Rams game a little bit last week. We're going to talk about this upcoming Panthers game. You guys know the drill. Got some new articles live over on Seahawks on SI. Had one go live earlier this morning. Going to have another one going live later. So keep an eye out on that as well. But today, I want to talk about something from yesterday afternoon that caught my attention. I think a lot of Seahawks fans did notice this. It, it's not huge news or anything like that, but I think covering this kind of stuff is interesting, and it does offer an opportunity to take a minute to talk about kind of an under the radar move that, or not under the radar, but a forgotten move of the early Mike Macdonald era of Seahawks football. I'm talking about cornerback Mike Jackson. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today. Get to it and go have some fun with sports this year. So this clip circulated a little bit through the Seahawks fan base and the NFL fan base in general yesterday. It's a locker room interview with Mike Jackson, senior cornerback for the Carolina Panthers. And if that name sounds familiar, it should, because Mike Jackson is a former Seattle Seahawk. He actually played here for 3 years. Technically, maybe it was no, it was 3 years. He was a 17-game starter for one of those seasons, and he was actually pretty good. If you remember the late Pete Carroll Seahawks at all, you probably remember Mike Jackson. He was a very relevant, not necessarily key or pivotal player in that late era Pete Carroll Seahawks defense, but he mattered and he was pretty good. And when Mike Macdonald showed up and they rebuilt the cornerback room, they decided to trade him. So the trade, this was, I remember I actually wrote an article about this for On SI for yesterday, but the trade took place right before the third and final preseason game last offseason. So about 16 months ago, actually, almost exactly 16 months ago, the Seahawks traded Mike Jackson to the Carolina Panthers for linebacker Michael Barrett. Now, Michael Barrett was a rookie linebacker when we traded for him, Michigan Wolverine, and he was a seventh round pick of the Carolina Panthers in the 2024 draft. So he was traded before he ever played in a game for the team that drafted him. Now, in theory, it sounded great, right? We had a lot of cornerbacks. We had new guys like Nehemiah Pritchett. At that point, we still had DJ James. We had Artie Burns. We had Woolen. We had Witherspoon. We had I don't think we had Job yet, but maybe he was on the roster. And Jackson was going to kind of be an odd man out because he was also making a little bit more money than a couple of those guys like Pritchett and like James. So they traded him for a linebacker, and Seattle needed linebackers at that point in time. Remember, they had completely flipped over their whole linebacker room that offseason. Bobby Wagner left, Jordan Brooks left, and we had brought in Tyrell Dodson and Jerome Baker, who were 1 year stopgaps that we were hoping they would work out, but we knew there was a good chance they didn't or they wouldn't, and neither did. Both were actually kind of a mess. So we wanted another opportunity to maybe find a starter with a guy like Michael Barrett, who was a seventh round pick, but there was some upside there. Well, unfortunately, I can say that while this wasn't anything huge, and I don't think this is anything worth dwelling over, this was one of the bad John Schneider trades. He's made some. Less so recently, but this was definitely one of the bad trades for John Schneider because Michael Jackson has now spent 2 years on the Panthers. He started every game the Panthers have played. He has 34 passes defensed, including 17 this year, which leads the league. He's got 5 interceptions. His PFF grade has been about 71 on average over the last 2 years cumulatively. His coverage grade is somewhere around 72 cumulatively. So graded very well. Like I said, the 5 interceptions. He's got about 126 tackles. He's forced a couple fumbles. And he's become a very good starter for them. Maybe not a star player. I don't think he's a star, but he's been very good for them. And he's an important part of a team that is poised to maybe make the playoffs this year. And meanwhile, Michael Barrett, the linebacker that you traded Jackson for, never played a snap. And I mean that about as literally as possible because he didn't play for the Seahawks. The Seahawks would release him, put him on the practice squad, and then release him again a few days later. He would go to, I think, the Raiders for a little bit. He went to, maybe it was the Lions. I know it was 3 different teams, but Jackson bounced around, or excuse me, Barrett bounced around like crazy. Never played in the NFL. He's currently a starting linebacker on the UFL Birmingham Stallions. So his NFL career is probably already over, and he's found a home in the UFL, which is great, but that is not a player that the Seahawks got anything out of. We genuinely would have been better off trading Jackson for a 7th round pick. But if you are being honest with the way he's played, he's been worth way more than a 7th round pick. He's been worth some legitimate capital. And it's not like we didn't know that he had some value. Like 2022, he played 1,500 snaps, 67 tackles. His coverage numbers were not stellar, but they were okay. He did make a good amount of plays on the ball. He was good in man. And he was a starter. I mean, he was a starter for a bad defense, I'll grant you, but him and Woolen were the outside corners on that defense. And then 2023, he played a lot less because we drafted Witherspoon and Trey Brown was kind of healthy at that point. We wanted to see what was up there. Trey Brown definitely saw a little bit more playing time in 2023 than Jackson did, but Jackson was there for us when we needed him. He was active for every game. He started 4 games. He played in some others. His numbers overall were decent, not amazing. And we knew he was a decent player. We just kind of felt like we didn't have room for him, and there wasn't enough there to be trade value, so we just got him out there for a random linebacker lottery ticket. So it's it is notable that he's kind of blossomed into being a legitimately really good starter in this league. Carolina is, I think, very happy with him. But the reason why I'm making this video, and I kind of alluded to this early in this video, before I even got into the Mike Jackson stuff, is that Jackson had some comments about the trade. And he sounds like, and I want to say this, athletes are always trying to find an excuse to put a chip on their shoulder because it motivates you. It is something that helps you out there, I think. And I think players look for reason to feel slighted or mistreated, even in times where they're not, because it does actually motivate you to perform better in many cases. But Jackson doesn't sound thrilled about the way things ended. So I got this tweet here from Joe Person. He covers the Panthers. He's got a video clip of the locker room interview. Again, I'm not playing the clip on stream, but what I can do is link the tweet in the description, so go check it out if you want to. But I'll run it down. Mike Jackson, he's talking about the fact that he was traded by the Seahawks to the Panthers, and he goes, well, they traded me, he basically says, they traded me for nothing. Then he says, a bag of chips. And then he says, a stale bag of chips. So there's some back and forth over what the Seahawks traded for when they gave up Mike Jackson. But however you want to slice it, the point he's trying to say is they didn't get a lot. And he's right. They got very little. In fact, you could argue they got nothing except for a tiny little piece of cap relief. And that cap relief probably could have been gotten other ways as well. So it would not be unfair to say they got nothing for the Jackson trade. He then goes on to talk about how there were a couple of moments when he was in Seattle where he knew they were done with him. He he saw a depth chart at one point out of the corner of his eyes that had a player that the Seahawks had just drafted in either the 5th or 7th round ahead of him on the depth chart. Now, the player he's talking about is probably Nehemiah Pritchett, who was a 5th round pick. Seattle did not have any 7th round picks in 2024, so it couldn't have been a 7th rounder. Maybe it was DJ James, but DJ James got cut before the season started too, so I don't think it was him. It's probably Pritchett. He also talks about how the fact that Seattle had him take a pay cut shortly before trading him down to like 1.404 million. And that was also a sign that there was not a lot of interest in bringing him back. So basically, he goes through this. He doesn't sound furious or anything. He does kind of sound like he did not appreciate the fact that Seattle thought so little of him, that they were willing to just basically grab anything in a trade. And literally, they ended up getting anything. It was a 7th round pick, a recent 7th round pick that lasted 72 hours approximately. So this is the kind of stuff that is worth monitoring, I think. I think revenge is a very motivating emotion. I think the desire to show your former team that they were wrong to get rid of you is there. So I'm interested to see what Jackson does. I mean, there are great examples of this throughout sports. You've got things like Steve Smith Sr., right? Gets cut by the Panthers, goes to the Ravens and promises it's going to be a show when the Ravens play the Panthers later that year. Steve Smith has like 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was a show. So sometimes you get something really special out of these vengeance games. So maybe we'll get that, or maybe we'll get something hopefully a lot more forgettable. But while we're here, what do you guys think about the whole Mike Jackson thing? Like for me, obviously we lost the trade. Like this is actually kind of a pretty awful trade. You gave up a veteran cornerback that blossomed into a really good starter for essentially nothing. But I can't say I regret not having Mike Jackson on the team because what would he do? Right? We've got Woolen, we've got Witherspoon, we've got Job, and whatever little you think of Job, I don't think that he's doing anything out there that Jackson wouldn't do if he were here. Jackson was not some superstar player here either. And believe me, if it were Woolen, Witherspoon, and Jackson out there, instead of Witherspoon, Woolen, and Job, I think other teams would choose to pick on Jackson the same way and for the same reason they pick on Job. Eamon Worry is technically playing nickel corner right now. So where does Jackson fit in? I don't think he helps this team at all. This team has already proven they can survive massive injuries to their secondary. They lost a bunch of corners earlier this year, and it wasn't really something that was really hurting them outside of that one game against Tampa Bay. And I don't think having Mike Jackson would have undone what happened in that Tampa Bay game. That was a systemic failure. It wasn't just about one corner. You replace Nehemiah Pritchett with Mike Jackson, it's slightly better, but I still think you're going to run into the same exact problems. But a lot of people liked Mike Jackson. I appreciated him too. He wasn't amazing here, but there were good moments. There were good spots. He's not a very good tackler overall, so that's probably something that McDonald saw and really didn't like. And that's part of the reason why he's not here now. But he is a bigger corner, right? He is a little bit on the bigger side. He's not super slow or anything, but he is a little bit bigger. I kind of feel like he's a man corner, and McDonald is more of a zone guy. That's probably part of it as well. But Carroll was also more of a zone guy, and he found a way to use Jackson fairly well. Okay, so I think that is about all that need be said. I wanted to go over that a little bit because it's interesting. He sounds a little bit unhappy with the way things ended. And it sounds like he feels like it's a little bit disrespectful that Seattle thought so little of him that they gave him up for nothing. And maybe he's just out. Look, Jackson won. Like Jackson won more than anybody else. After what he did last year, which is play well, he got a 2-year, like 10 point something $million contract, so an 8-figure deal. And after the season he's having right now, he's probably going to get a much bigger deal this offseason. He's probably going to get like at least 25 million over 3 years or something. I imagine that's like the floor. So he got what he wanted. He got to go out there. He got to earn a much bigger deal, and he's gonna be in good shape for it. But seems like he has some negative feelings, and we might be feeling him this weekend. We'll find out. So, what'd you think? See you guys later.